I'm pretty sure at some point in their lives, everybody's heard the saying, there's a reason for the seasons. And this is a very interesting topic because when you're in a specific season, you don't know when it's going to end. And you also don't know when the next season's going to begin. And sometimes seasons blur together. Austin, bring us in, enlighten us, and show us what a season is and what do they carry.
So I'm going to use this as an example. And some people may not like this. So
my chair just rotated on its own.
Really?
Like I just sat back to drink this cup of coffee and it just went.
Interesting. We got a ghost. But some people may not like this example. And I apologize for using this as an example, actually. Not really. But to all the people, and to all the lovely ladies that I've been in a relationship with, before, this is gonna be tough.
Hey, you sure you don't want to save this for Patreon?
Nah, we can put it on here. To all the lovely ladies that I was in a relationship with before, Jose knows me. I tend to end my relationships in pretty interesting ways. There was a situation where I ended one in a very interesting way when I was younger. But I do feel like, especially with women, this is very relatable, that when you're in certain relationships, you have a time that you being in this relationship with this woman may work for you. It may behoove you to be in a relationship with this person. However, say that something changes. Say that your goals and your ambitions change, and those women may not want to be or may not like the pathway which you're heading down because it requires more work, or requires more time away from them, or requires other things as opposed to spending time with them. So you have to make a decision. Is this something that I tried to make work for an extended period of time, and you might have been trying to make it work for an extended period of time, and it might have taken time away from your business, time away from your ambitions, money away from your ambitions, all that. But you end up staying sometimes too long in a particular season, which has already or should have already passed. And when you do that, it stagnates your production in the direction that you would like to go. And again, this is something that you can see very clearly with certain relationships. There might have been times where you, myself, or you, viewers, where you might have stayed in a relationship for too long, maybe because it felt nice, or the perks that you were getting with it, they were cooking, cleaning, all that type of shit. Cool. But you might have known that it wasn't good for you, or it wasn't for you to build the future that you wanted for yourself. So you have to understand, it's not something where you have to make things work all the time with every single person or with every single venture for the end of life or to the end of life, right? Certain times, these things have a start and an end date. And that's up for you to decide, but you have to be cognizant of that, and you have to be very punctual with that start and end date time. Because you ending something too late, again, could stagnate or halt the work that you should be putting in towards your goals and ambitions. And it's okay for something to last a season, but it's not okay for you to draw out one season for longer than it should, because you're missing the next season of your life, and then the next season after that, and the next season after that, when those should have happened already. Or again, you're just making something last longer than it should just because it feels comfortable. And if you want to get far in this thing called life, you're gonna have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and to get comfortable with going into and conquering the new trials and tribulations that come with a new season.
Imagine extending a drought or a flood. Imagine the devastating impacts that would have on an ecosystem. That's exactly what you just described. When you overstay your welcome, when you elongate a season, when you try to make something last longer, or you're preventing and barring something from happening, the negative consequences that incur, you may not be aware of, but you're postponing your future. Whether it's a positive moment, and we like to talk about how life has alternating positives and negatives, whether you're extending a negative or extending a positive, you're pushing back the greatest positive in the process. You're pushing away the inevitable, and then eventually you might just not be around to see it. Now, I want to share a story of a conversation that I had today, actually, with a brother of mine, Brandon. Shout out to Brandon. Illfound, illfound.com, for those of you who want luxury products throughout your house. Could be coasters, it could be wine holders, it could be personal cigar ashtrays, pencil holders, coffee filter holders, and it's continuing. illfound.com. So, Brandon and I were talking today about life and certain realizations that come about throughout life in the process, in the journey. And we broke down certain things in certain seasons and certain very, very memorable moments in our adult lives, and how all of those small actions have led to where we are today, have shown us and given us attributes and shown us what to do and what not to do, helped us cultivate skills, abilities, and networks and understandings, and how to formulate our current strategies towards life. How are we going to court women? How are we going to become millionaires? How are we going to increase our network? How are we going to take care of our parents? How are we going to take care of our brothers? All of those seasons that we've been through have taught us and armed us with the information required to succeed in our current endeavors and future endeavors. If you don't have a comprehensive view of what you're going to do and where you've been, that's okay for now. But you need to work to where there becomes a point in time that you can understand everything that has happened to you and where that has a role and has a position. Because when you don't do that, you're only going to hyper-focus on the negatives, and you're going to become a little depressive, poopy pants, sorrowful person who only self-pities themselves for the rest of their life and never takes self-accountability and works towards the actionable steps that can make their life and those around them better. And if you ask me, there's not a single more disappointing, depressing, and disgraceful way to live than as such.
And I'd like to give some reasons as to why I think people like to stay in the seasons, and also why people should transition to another season. So I think fear is a big one. I think that's just, something that everyone knows, everyone has to a certain extent. When you think about a new season or a new chapter in life, most of the time it comes with a level of ambiguity. There we go. Said it right this time. So
I don't think you said it wrong before.
Yeah, it was like we do so many podcasts. It was like 10 podcasts back, But yeah.
I don't even know what I ate 5 minutes ago.
Real shit. And it also comes with a level of, unknown. And people are scared of the things that they don't know, or they can't wrap their minds around, or that they can't see, right? Like, that's why people, if you turn off the lights, a lot of young kids and whatnot, when I was a kid, I was scared of the dark, because I can't see everything. I don't know where everything is. There could be something there that I may not know because I can't see it. I can't perceive it, right? And when you're thinking about a new season or a new chapter, there's a lot of things that you don't know. You don't know how this is going to go. You don't know how investing your money in this is going to go. You don't know how people are going to receive you and look at you when you try this new thing, right? You don't know. So people are scared to go about handling or going through that. And then I also think people get comfortable where they're at. We've met some people along the way that were comfortable where they were. And they would say, hey, you should do this. because when you do this, you get to retire when you're 65 and you get, a nice pension and you get life insurance and things of that nature. You get these nice little comfy things. You get a nice, suburban house, right? That you can have a family and with the white picket fence, grandkids. You can have all this shit right now.
You can relax.
The 401k, you can have all that shit, right? And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but if you have higher aspirations, that's nice for them. They're comfortable. They don't want to go any further than that. That's fine for them. But if you want more, you have to realize that is probably one of the reasons why you're staying where you're at. You're comfortable where you are. But in order to grow, you have to, again, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And then another one I would say is ego. Because say that you're in a space, right? You're in a small town and you're the guy in that small town because you did everything that one could do in that small town. You were the best basketball player, you're the best football player, you were the smartest, and what have you. They might even have a small college right there that you could go to. However, they also have Harvard. And say you did well enough to get into Harvard, but you're like, nah, I'm gonna stay here. Because I like being the man. I like being, the guy here. Everybody knows me in this town because I'm the shit in this town. I'm going to stay here because I'm him, right? That's that ego coming into play. Because you have to realize that whenever you go to another level or start another season, there are people who have been in that season or who have been accustomed to that season a lot longer than you have. And a lot of people have a problem with saying, yeah, they have been here longer than me. They probably do know more than me. So how about I learn from them? A lot of people have a problem with that. And that stops them from wanting to move forward because they like being the know-it-all guy. They like being the person that's looked at as the best dressed, the most athletic, the most handsome, all that type of shit. They like looking that way to people. And when you transition to the next season, you may not be that guy. However, I would like to posit that if you want to go to another season, or if you're thinking about going to another season, why you should do it? Because you'll grow as a person easily. When you go through hard shit, when you go through new shit, when you go through, unidentified or unexperienced or untraveled territory, you start to learn things that you didn't know before. And you learning those things builds you into a better, stronger person, right? And there's certain things where if you keep going through something, whether it's you as a human being or an animal or whatever, we adapt. So the more that you put yourself in certain conditions, the more you get the chance to adapt to those conditions. And you don't get to adapt to those conditions unless you put yourself in them. So you can't grow, your body can't adapt unless you put yourself in that condition or in that new season. And when you do that, like I said, it helps you go personally, and it also helps you grow mentally, and you gain a larger sense of knowledge. You learn a lot more about the world around you, things that you may not have known before. So personal growth and knowledge are big factors on why I think that you should transition to the next season. And I also think that you should go to the next season because that's what life is all about. You have a winter, you have a spring, you have a summer, you have a fall. And people like to say art imitates life, or vice versa. But in this case, art imitates life. So if you, the artist or the art piece, think that you are too good to go against what the natural cycle of life goes through, then again, that's that ego coming into play. Because we all have seasons. We have seasons of personal growth. We have seasons of loss. We have seasons of exponential gain. We all have those. So if you think that, I'm thinking that maybe I should stay in this season. No. Look at the world around you and realize that just like we have winter, spring, summer, and fall, so will I. And be eager to take that on. Because again, it's not just there just for fuck's sake. It's there to help you grow as a person. And hopefully help others around you grow as well.
What makes you think that you're in control of the seasons that you're in? We don't control summer. We don't control winter. We don't control spring. We don't control fall. We don't control the sun. We don't control the moon. We don't control the earth. We can't even always control our own actions, let alone our own thoughts. Although we can affect our environment and our surroundings and our body and our mind and our vibrations, the power that we have is actually so small and so limited that you have to be an egotistical, schizophrenic maniac to think that you can really control the seasons around you in absolute. It's just not possible. There's a point in time that you have to realize that you just have to move with the waves. You have to just bob and weave. You have to adapt. You just have to be present in the moment and just make the best move that you can. You have to realize that you can't always plan for everything. You can't always win. You can't always just lose. Well, you can just lose, but you can't always win. But there's seasons of winning and losing in their own rights. There's seasons where if you play your cards right, you'll always win. But there's also seasons that even playing your cards right, you are bound to lose. But again, is a loss truly a loss? Is that season of losing without a reason? No. You need to find the meaning behind everything that happens to you. And if you can't find one, create one. Make a lesson out of nothing and affect the change. Hey, man, this didn't work. I lost $10,000. I'm a failure. It could end there. Or you could just simply say, I failed and I lost $10,000. But what did I learn? Or what can I learn? Or what doesn't work? There's a flip side to every coin. Can you find that flip side and can you make a negative into a positive? That's up to you. There's a reason for the seasons. There's a reason why everything happens. And you just need to be perspicacious enough to understand it. Easier said than done. But if you take the challenge, it's a worthwhile endeavor. Like everything in life, nothing is ever going to get easier. It's always going to get harder and it's always going to become worse. You are just going to have to get better. You have to get better. One more time. You have to get better.
And I'd like to break it down this way, because a lot of people think that, like when you're a kid, right, you normally have that one toy or that one thing that you like to bring with you everywhere. And some people like to do that until they get relatively older, until they grow out of that, out of having that shit around. It might take some people longer because they feel like they need that thing to get by. They need that thing because it's their lucky thing, right? They just need that little blankie with them at all times because it brings them good luck. They need that toy with them all the time because it brings them a sense of joy and happiness, even if it might be to the point to where you have that shit and you might be in fucking middle school, fucking high school, and you still have the same shit that you were carrying around when you were a kid. So the things that got you through the winter aren't going to be the same things that get you through the summer. The tools that got you through going up Mount Everest are not going to be the same tools that you utilize to trek through the Sahara Desert. It's not. Two different climates, two different terrains, two different seasons. When you're thinking about the summer and the winter, you wear different clothes during those times. The air conditioning usage is going to be different during those times, right? The water consumption might be different because in the summer, if you don't drink enough water, you could pass the fuck out, right? And then also the amount of sunscreen and shit, of course you should be using some sunscreen to, in some shape or form all the time, and same thing with water, but it goes up in the summer because the immense heat and sun that you're getting as opposed to the winter, and it might not be as much, sun out depending on where you live. All those things that get you through one season may not get you through the other season. And that's okay. Honestly, that's how it's supposed to be. And I had a conversation with a lovely woman today, one of our mentors, love you to death. And she was talking about how another one of our mentors, she knew and she worked with for a period of time. And she relied on him so much to answer certain questions and to give her feedback on things and hopefully guide her in the right direction, which beginning out, no problem with that, right? But once the communication between the two started to subside, she started to have to figure out these things on her own. And she was telling me how that actually helped her in the long run because she didn't have to rely on someone else for those answers. She was more perspicacious and decided to go out her way to figure out those things on her own and for herself, which not only expedited things, but it allowed her to realize the power and the will that she had within herself that she wouldn't have realized otherwise. You can't realize, or you don't realize that you can really ride a bike until you take off the training wheels. You don't know how good you are at bowling until you take off the fucking bumpers, right? So for you, how good at this thing called life can you be? You'll never know unless you take off the fucking training wheels. You'll never know unless you transition to that next season. And this is one of our, I'm not even gonna tell you. This is just something funny happened in the background.
We're fine.
We're
perfectly
good.
fine.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
Absolutely hilarious.
It's a season.
It's a season.
And on that note, the AM Club podcast.
Side of that.
The AM Club podcast.